welcome to another episode from Inside Treasures. My name is Phoebus, and I love to challenge myself and those around me for the purpose of growth. This podcast is about helping you to heal, to change, and to grow. By listening to this episode, you will discover about finding peace, inner stillness, and tranquility. In the last episode, we talked about mindfulness, about building an external awareness with the use of mindfulness. Concentrating on the world out there and understanding what is out there. Seeing things for what they are without passing any judgment. This episode is about going within and finding that internal awareness, finding that peace within, finding stillness and tranquility. A few days ago, it was on the FT and it was a story I particularly like. And they had one of the monks from the Himalayas. His name is Matthew Ricard. He's French. He's been labeled as the happiest man in the world. And he had a wonderful quote. He said, "Make peace within your own mind, and then the time won't feel so long or so difficult." What I particularly liked about that quote was about making peace within our own mind, finding that peace within. As I explained in the last episode, mindfulness is about being present in this moment without passing any judgment whatsoever. Just being there, observing. And we practice mindfulness through meditation, through focusing on our breathing, through focusing on what is. I love the meditations that focus on something. In the last episode, we focused externally. In this episode, we will focus on our breath. Forget about any special meditations. You can have, nice visualizations, mantras, and all sorts of different things that they can help you focus your mind, but without the right foundations, you won't go very far. What I found through my experience is that without the proper foundation, if we're unable to find the place within that it all stops, or become more calm and more serene, any special meditation doesn't do much. Pretty much it does nothing, because we're trying to focus on the meditation, but our mind chatter, our emotional upheaval is not allowing us to be there with our meditation. So remember, simplicity works. We'll be focusing on our breath. Now, why should you go through the trouble of practicing mindfulness? Number one, for me, is it increases your sensitivity to experience the world and to experience yourself. It's about coming in touch with that internal universe that we have and knowing what's going on. Because at different times we have emotions, we have thoughts, and we're not even aware. All this mind chatter that we have from day to day that goes on in the background. And how often do most of us just get along with that and just go wherever it takes us? And all that creates commotion. Another thing is seeing things that are there that you just don't see, both internally and externally. Being present is super important to our well-being. It's super important to actually make sense of the world. But seeing things that are not there reminds me of a story. And when I was younger, for some reason, I had to go and find a water meter and get a reading of that water meter. So my father was not there, but my uncle was there. And I went and asked him, I said, "Do you know where this water meter is? I know it's up there." He said, "Yeah, you just go up there. You find it. It's near that pole, that stone. So you go up there and you'll find it. That water meter is up there, next to this pole." I went up there and I started to look. And I looked here and I looked there. And I thought I looked everywhere. I spent like 15 minutes looking for this water meter to get that reading. I went back with disappointment. I said, "I can't see it. I can't find it. It must be there, but I just don't know where it is." He looked at me, he smiled, he said, "Okay, let's go." And off we went together. He looked, he knew where to look, of course. And he said, "It's there." I said, "Where?" He said, he kneeled down, he pointed to it, and he said, "Right there." And all of a sudden, that water meter that was there all along just emerged in front of my eyes. It was there. I would look at it, but I would not see it. And that's the kind of concept that we have. It's like things are there, but we just miss them. And that goes along with everything. It can be the love that we have around us and we miss out on. It can be great opportunities that we just don't get hold of because we just don't see them. It can be that emotional pain that we go over and over again. It can be those pressing thoughts. It can be bad habits, addictions. It can be anything that is there and we just don't see it. And I want you to think it's as if I'm pressing on your leg and it just aches and hurts, but you have no awareness of your leg hurting. Until all of a sudden I ask you to pay attention to how you're feeling within your body. And you feel that pain on your leg. And you're like, hold on a minute. I have been feeling this, but I've also been a bit numb. I haven't fully experienced that pain. And it's not only about pain. It can be about pleasure. Because when we're in pleasure, then we can be fully in pleasure. And in general, it's about, like I said, finding that inner stillness. There's a point of zero gravity where things just stop to push us and pull us, where our thoughts and our emotions calm down. That's a very special place to be in. That will give you great strength and ability to be competent in the world. We covered the why. Let's get a little bit more specific. Let's move into the when. We all want to build habits. Habits are like a great buzzword these days, and everyone is trying to do things and change the way they live and change their day-to-day habits. But without a when, without knowing when we will do this, it creates a trouble. It creates a lot of friction. It creates a lot of ambivalence. You don't know when. And then if we do it whenever we feel like it, we'll get to that later. You just never will feel like it. You feel like it once a week, once a month, but it's not enough. So create a time block, preferably something that follows an event. So for you, it might be like right after you finish work or before you start work. What works for me is wake up, brush my teeth, have a shower, drink some water, and then go straight to meditation. If I check an email, if I look outside, if I want to speak to someone, it's very hard to build that momentum again, to go back into, oh yeah, I want to sit and meditate. And if I get into the hard position, then it starts to create inner friction. The rebel in me starts to rebel, and we'll get to that later. So find the time, preferably that you be undisturbed, followed by an event, or before an event, and then you have that momentum. Now let's get into the how. How do you have this internal mindful meditation? Fancy names. Simplicity. Find a place that you can either sit comfortably or lie. Lie down. You like the floor? Lie down on the floor. It can be a chair. You might have a comfy chair. It might be your bed. Bed sometimes I avoid it because it's very easy to fall asleep. But if you fall asleep, you fall asleep. It's not the end of the world. Sometimes I went to and meditated, but actually I fell asleep in such a horrible thing. It's not. It just meant we were tired. We found a place to relax and we fell asleep. It's not a sin. We just keep going. And as you're sitting or lying, you can do this right now because I'm going to do it slowly, but it's going to be short. And if you do it, I hope you have the space and time to do it. It will stay with you because you have experienced it. And then it will be easier to recreate it. So sit or lie, whatever is comfortable to you. With your eyes open, choose a spot somewhere. You see your eyes constantly flicker. They go from one place to the next. Find one spot and stay there. And while you're listening to my voice, you can keep staring at that spot. That slows down your gauge. When we slow down our eyes, things begin to slow down as well. Now that you've found that spot, and you keep looking at it, allow your eyes to shut. Because we're trying to start focusing within. By shutting our eyes, we're shutting one of our senses, and we're coming more in contact with within. And now become aware into your breathing. You've been breathing all this time, same constant. It's been going on and on and on. Yet how aware we are of our breath. Experiencing our breathing on its own, it can bring comfort to us. As long as it's nice, rhythmical, and deep. Breathe in, count from 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then exhale. Breathe in, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and exhale. Inhale, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, exhale. Now we just momentarily shifted our breathing in order to attract our attention to it. Now that we've done this, we don't have to continue with inhaling 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. But this changes the rhythm of your breathing. It creates a deeper curve of breathing, a longer one. And it just allows our mind to begin to rest, our attention to begin to focus internally to our breathing. It helps us ground us, and it also begins to change our nervous system. We're moving from the sympathetic to the parasympathetic system. I'm going to have another episode about that. Basically, we're telling the nervous system, you can calm down now. So you see, it's not only about the mind, but it also affects the body. And the body affects the mind by changing the way we breathe. In the East, they say that in the gaps between the breaths, you find God. For many years, I was meditating, but there were a lot of times which I found it very hard to switch off. And when that changed was when I started to focus on that little gap. When I started to focus, instead of trying to silence all those thoughts that were coming to me, I started, because I heard it, it was a great tip. I started to listen to that space between the thoughts, that space between the waves that they come. And if we focus on that, then that space, that peace, expands. Think of thoughts and emotions like passing clouds. See it in fast forward, of course. They come and they go. They come, they go, and they pass. Or you can think of them like waves. They come, they slowly build up, they reach their peak, and then they crash. And as they crash, they dissipate, and they disappear. They cease to exist. And then there's another wave that comes, and it rises, it peaks, and it crashes. And then again, and again, and again. And we can be okay with that process. As long as we keep focusing on our breathing, inhaling, exhaling. In conclusion, awareness is the first step to changing any behavior, any thought or emotional pattern. It's about building internal sensitivity and external sensitivity. It's both systemic, because it will help you in general, but it also has to do with the moment to moment. The fact that you're practicing helps you win that race called life. From the moment to moment. You practice, let's say, in the morning, and you're not always going to get it right, and that's fine. But then that moment to moment, we begin to increase our sensitivity and our awareness. Then we'll learn to recognize the shifting thoughts and emotions. We'll learn to recognize the push and pull that they produce and how they affect our behavior, the kind of things that we're doing. We'll learn to be more aware of our external environment, of other people, of how we feel, what we think, and we'll also be able to find that rest within. The more aware we become, the more we practice, the more we find clarity in our thoughts. Then we can move beyond our obstacles that have been holding us back. Then we can change things because we are in a position of strength. Mindfulness meditation is a way of calling home. a way to be alive, a way to be here in the here and now. And we only do that by practicing. And then somehow with time we mature. Is it going to be perfect? Are we going to be like the happiest man in the world? Probably not. But are we going to improve the quality of our life? I bet you are. Call home as often as you can. As the happiest man in the world said, the secret to meditation, there's nothing highly mysterious about it, but it does require practice. All we have to do is put the practice in, put the commitment in, showing up at that time that we said we're going to have our meditation. That's all it takes, and then the rest will come. It's like planting a seed and watering it. We're not the ones making it grow. But if we keep the conditions right, the plant will grow, the tree will grow. Please share this podcast with anyone you think may benefit. Until next time, let peace guide your life, love guide your heart, and reason guide your thoughts.